presentation, he had a presentation that was like world class. I mean, the kind that NATO get, or NASA, or fucking the Federal Reserve. And the lawyer, the top-ranked lawyer that he's alluded to and I've alluded to, said, well, somebody did a lot of work on this. And, you know, two of the board members and Andreas are the guys that put it together, but mostly Andreas. But that's what he's done for the last 15 years. He knows how to do that. But, I mean, it was just spotless. It was unbelievably compelling, you know. We wanted to put in money to listen to his story. Okay, questions. Forgetting the timeline because he took a little long, and I'm not making excuses for it, but the timeline. Yeah, in the back.
You mentioned before that we use different banks.
Oh, thank you. Okay. All of a sudden, and that's the way life is. All of a sudden, there's 5 deals. Okay. But in the meantime, some of the other kids in that 100 or 120 day period would give up, leave, quit. It ain't gonna happen. I know nobody's gonna quit. I'm gonna be there till I'm dead. I've heard all that shit before. Okay, but now the 5 deals are there, and he's trying to juggle gets the board meeting, gets everybody's approval, goes around, and the reason why the basic reason he had to interview his board members because I changed the articles of incorporation. I wanted him to have more latitude. I wanted him to spend up to, I think, 5 million euros without the board approval. And the German board wanted him down to 1 million euros or something really insignificant before they could get a board approval because the boards are being careful, you know. They don't want any Hitler slipping out again. So he had to reconvince everybody. And so he did that. He did a fine job. But the banks, the reason why, so he's got 5 deals. He's going to bank 1, your bank 1, and you like the deals, the lending parameters. You know, we're working on a term sheet. We're working on getting it approved, okay? Deal 2 and 3, we don't show you, because if we show you deal 2 and 3 to you, now the bank number 1 wants collateral on deal 2, collateral on deal 3, and if you showed them 4 and 5, they'd want collateral on those. The name of the game here is do not cross-collateralize. Extremely critical point. Do not cross-collateralize, because then when deal 3 falls out, and they've got 5 deals, right? Deal 3 falls out, then they want to know, even though we got plenty of collateral with the other 4 deals, how are you going to replace that collateral that dropped out? Once you show them $10 million of collateral, and now you only got 8, and it's only a $3 million deal, they still want $10 million of collateral. So that's why you don't use the same bank. Now, after you're doing a lot of deals, and you got, let's say, 3 favorite banks, and your CFO and maybe your CEO have developed relationships with these bankers. Okay, you know, I've got a deal here, and after you've done a bunch of deals, they approve, subject to due diligence, you got the money at 2.7%. over 10 years, whatever it is. They'll get approved on the phone. I mean, Marcus now just gets deals approved on the phone because they know after 20 or 30 deals, when he says it's there, it's there. When he says the debt service is this, it's really there, as opposed to and I don't think the kids lie to him, but they over-exaggerate. What you want to do is overperform. But you never want deals cross-collateralized. Maybe 2 deals, but not your first 2 deals. Maybe 2 deals after you've done 5 or 6 deals. Because in 5 deals, the likelihood is something's going to fall out of bed. When I came here, many years ago with 13 deals in a row, my deal that failed in 1981, 2 of the 13 fell out and they wanted more collateral. We had plenty of collateral in the other deals, but they saw, if you show them, they want more. So that's why you don't use the banks. You had a question.
I wanted to know about the bedpans, if you had any exits and what multiples they did at.
We've exited up to 15. 15, yeah.
Each deal is done with a new company.
Okay, holding company. Okay. And let's just talk about those 5 deals or 4 deals. Each deal will be bought in a separate company. So you got 4. Okay, the majority shareholder will be NewCo, and you've got 60-70% of NewCo. So we've got company 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's say the first 3 are owner finance. And by the way, you always start out 100% owner finance. That's your first play. And then if you go down to 40% owner finance, but if you don't start with owner finance, and then down the road you see that cash flow is not going to meet, and you try to interject owner finance, they're likely to say no. But if it's just like you call seller's finance equity. So your first opening tranche or your talk with a motivated seller is based on 100% owner finance. Okay, so now you've got 4 NewCos, mini NewCos, sub NewCos under the holding company, right? And if you're lucky, or if Allah's will, you're going to find a real CEO in one of those first 4 or 5 deals. For those of you that are going to pretend to be CEO in the beginning. But sometimes you won't find any CEO. Okay, so then you'll hear people talk about, Josh uses the words interim CEO, because he's interim until he finds somebody better. But it's hard to get a good CEO when you tell him that you're there until we find somebody better. Okay, but a lot of people understand the term interim CEO. Sometimes the interim CEO moves the CFO. And there's never been a CFO that didn't want to be CEO. So, so you're going to have these 4 deals, most of which probably aren't big enough to have a real CFO, most of which aren't big enough maybe even to have a CEO. They'll have an owner or some kind of general manager. But when you get towards the one, remember, 1 million, 3 million, 5 million, 7 million, 10 million, when you get up to 7, 10, 12 million, they're going to have a CEO. They're going to have a CEO. And sometimes in the 5th or 6th or 7th acquisition, the whole team of that one acquisition is better than your team. So then what do? You have to get rid of your team or reduce your team. All of a sudden you're going to find a jewel, a $15 million jewel that has a management team that should be $500 million company, but it's $15 million. And it's easy to see how much better they are than your guys. Tough decision. You want to be a $1 billion company? You want to be everybody's friend? That's your decision. It's your decision. But each NewCo, you may or may not keep the banking relationship with the existing bank. If you're not going to do 100% owner finance, you will guarantee you the first door of entry for you to go to get a bank to do commercial lending is his bank, their bank, that's interested because they understand the business. When you've been a banker, he's been my banker 15 years, well, he knows the ins and outs, right? So it's most likely, not always, but most likely you're going to get the best deal with the bank of the seller. But now, if the seller has got credit like you guys, and he doesn't pay his bill, well, then that's, you're going to have to find a new bank, because they don't give a shit. They just want their money out. Really wealthy people, big banks, aren't interested in a return on their investment. They're interested in a return of their investment. They want the fucking money back. You worry about inflation and all that other bullshit. They just want their money back. So if the subsidiary NewCo that you bought under the holding company has got good credit or reasonably good credit, then 7, 8 times out of 10, you're going to be able to use them to do the commercial lending part. But you start out owner finance. Yes, sir.
If you're creating the new company and their past histories with the company that exists now, because I know it's pro.
Well, no. When you buy this company, it's a NewCo. So even though it may be called something different, their credit history is still with that company that's been there 5, 10, 15 years. So I mean so you won't have it. That won't be a problem. Now, sometimes, there's a way of buying assets and treating it like buying stock for tax purposes, okay? Don't worry about that. Your accountants and lawyers will figure all of that out. But we want to buy assets because we don't want any of the past, current, and future liabilities. When you just buy assets, you don't get the history. You're not buying the stock. You're buying the asset. Let's say, let's use a real estate analogy, although I'm not a real estate guy. You're buying a building. You're not buying the company that owns the building. The company that owns the building has tax liabilities, etc., or could have tax liabilities. So you want to buy assets, but sometimes you can't buy assets, especially when they're transferring the permits that he talked about. We're having to buy the company because it takes too long from scratch to get the permits. So you just want them normally in 30 to 90 days, company to company, you can get the necessary permits transferred. But we've made not me, but some of the kids have made some mistakes, got poor legal advice, and found out that they could, they're still a year later waiting to get a goddamn, I told you about it yesterday, the day before. They got salaries to pay, no income, and they can't collect any money because they're not legally permitted. And substance abuse and those kinds of things have more permits. You got to have a special guy on staff, a special this, special that. We want the least amount of special shit needed. And there's nothing needed, almost, this is exaggeration, for bedpans, the low end of bedpans. You don't even have to really have a doctor around, So we want the least amount of restrictions. Because whatever can go wrong will go wrong, guys. I mean, Murphy's Law is alive and well. I mean, they'll say, well, that hasn't happened in 20 years. But when it happens to you, it's like the lightning that hit Lee Trevino, it's 100%. So you will have individual corporate entities, and the accountants and the lawyers know how to do that. But I mean, one of the things that's helped him is his lawyer, who is a world-class guy. I mean, he just, and when you're, one of the top legal minds in Europe and you say something, people listen. And that's what you want. You don't want to have to explain about. Just like the kid that's got the president, the ex-president. When he, when he opens his fucking mouth, I guarantee you people are listening. Absolutely. Now, it's hard to get ex-presidents and stuff like that. Not impossible, you just heard one. But you're not going to get Merkel in Germany. Again, Merkel is probably a feather to her nest, with the greatest respect, ma'am. She's probably got 15, 20 board positions when she steps down here and whenever she steps down. 15, 20 board positions, each paying her 300,000 euros each to take care of her in her old age. And that's, when you get out of politics, you feather your nest, meaning you go and you make deals. And the time to get these guys, these professionals, are the last 18 months before they're going to retire. Because that's when most of the big firms allow you to go and look for deals for yourself. Because they know that, unfortunately, their pensions aren't going to take care of them anymore. Pensions, the system doesn't work like that. In the old days, it did. When you retired from Goldman Sachs 40 years ago, you played golf, a little fishing, maybe 2 boards with some buddies of yours, and that's it. Now, that's not the case. Now you're trying to line your pockets, and I don't mean that in a bad way, and sometimes it winds up being in a bad way, but to line your pockets. Right now, Goldman Sachs is paying a bunch of fees because they paid $600 million. They collected $600 million on an Indonesian deal that the fees probably should have been $60 million. But those big names. So any other, what else about, yes, ma'am?
What's the best way to utilize in-house accounting and lawyer and also outside?
The best is the in-house accounting and lawyer to do your smaller deal due diligence, maybe up to $2 million, so you don't. And then especially on seller finance, where you're not going to pull out any money, even though the accountants and the lawyers understand that they're going to get paid later. It's just easier. They're more available when they're going to get paid. And you can't blame them. So use your in-house accountant, lawyer, and your industry experts to do the due diligence on the first 1 or 2 or 3 deals that are maybe less than $2 million. After $2 million, when you get up to $3, $4, $5 million, because errors can be made, and you want somebody to take responsibility other than your own board. And you'll see that the board members, no, that's I haven't been an audit partner at KPMG in 15 years. Things have changed. they'll defer and they'll want the big accounting firms to do the due diligence. And I gave you the quality of earnings thing. That's the kind of thing. And and it's a lot of work. It's not as much work as they charge you for, but it's a lot of work. Somebody's doing a lot of work. The engagement partners aren't doing hardly any work. It's the managers and the grunts that are doing the work and that are flipping through the pages, etc. But I mean, Andreas, he matter-of-factly went through it. Of course, and this is just a few weeks ago. It's not so long ago. Yeah.
What have been the problems with setting up the GmbH besides the notary?
The problem was I don't like the guys putting in money, and he put up $25,000. Some of the board members volunteered to put up money. No, you're here. By the way, when you're recruiting these people, you're here for your expertise, some of your time, but not your money. That's in the scripts too. But when push comes to shove, some of them, maybe out of frustration, well, fuck, we're $200,000 short. I'll put up 100, he'll put up 100. And that's a good thing. But you don't ask him for the money.
Yeah, but you have to put in the 25.
Well, he wrote a check himself.
No, but that's the law in Germany.
Yeah, it's the law in Germany. Yeah, so he put up the 25. He didn't ask anybody for any money. I saw it in his weekly report. I put up 25. I'm going to put up 25. And of course, I knew that was the law.
But what was the problem then?
No. The problem was getting to the point where we had 5 deals. That was the problem because, the board members, Germans like anybody else, they want to meet. And when you follow the model strictly, you don't meet until you have something to talk about. And they want to talk about strategy. You don't need any fucking strategy. What's the strategy about buying a fucking bedpan? What? And Lou Gessner, when he turned around IBM 25, 30 years ago, is quoted as saying, the last fucking thing I need is a strategy meeting. Because they were hemorrhaging money, That's what we need is sales. Normally, 99% of the time, increased top-line revenue saves everybody. 99% of the time. Increased sales saves everybody. Not 100% of the time, because once in a while there's something, but 99%, we got to sell more shit. And as he said, quite accurately, he was, actually he's a super financial analyst, but he can't give away sex in the lumber camp, but I mean, he learned. And some of the guys, and having a financial background is no fucking advantage, believe me. Deb had a financial background. Okay, yes, sir.
So, just to understand it correctly, he paid the $25,000.
Well, no. Okay, I'm listening. Go ahead, keep talking.
So he opened it. So he paid the $25,000 over
Correct.
to GmbH, and for the rest of 4 subsidiaries, there was no other fees.
No, you're correct.
Dan,
I'm listening. Go ahead.
in the interim, before you exit out, I mean, people taking payments from the sales, right? And the running of the company and all.
Okay, when you're exiting.
No. In the interim time, while you have the company.
Okay. Now let's say all 4 of these deals close, and we've got a revenue of 15 million euros.
Right.
So what does the CEO of a 15 million euro company make? Well, the EU tells you. There's a big chart. 15 million euros. He gets 145,000 euros is the mid, 185,000 euros is the high, 105,000 euros is the low. You just don't write a check for all the money in the bank like some of you guys think. You will be restricted. How much does a CFO make of a 15 million euro company? 15 million, I mean revenue 15 million. Okay, 118,000 euros. And those are the salaries that you start paying. Of course, you've got the money to pay them now. You've got the money to pay them. Now, when you do the guys that are dinosaur hunting, 500 million, there is really no chart, but I mean, it's at least a couple million a year. It's at least a couple million a year. And of course, some of the big companies, the companies that are in the billions. And if you notice, almost 80 to 90% of the compensation that the CEOs get now is not salary. It's stock, options, warrants, whatever. That's where the big money comes. The big money comes. But remember, your board and you are going to be getting cash bonuses based on the productivity and the number of transactions you do. Not paying dividends. You're not paying dividends because a guy that has 2% of your company, 2% of dividend may be worth nothing. Whereas if he's instrumental in getting your deal done, you may give him $200,000 for his efforts as a director. So almost never will you pay a dividend. Almost never. Now, sometimes when you're going to exit to a private equity fund 10 years from now, 7 years from now, and you've got a bunch of accumulated assets on the balance sheet, cash, then you pay yourself a dividend. You pay yourself a dividend. Yes, sir.
There's going to be multiple CEOs at some point when you have enough of these.
Well, no. You may not call them CEOs. You may call them general managers. But you mean the HDO that runs, okay. But I mean, a $3 million deal doesn't need a CEO. It doesn't need, but you may have one guy that runs 3 of them for you. And when he was talking about the hub and spoke, he lives in Leipzig. 2 hours drive, that's the hub. 2 hours drive in any direction. That's it. That's where his acquisition universe is. And the 5th one was farther. It was 400 kilometers. I don't even know what a fucking kilometer is. Kilometer, I think he meant. Okay. And in your time, and that's why, like I've said, the broad, she says, I got him coming to me. And you got, and it's tough. A 26, 29-year-old, having these people come to you, but you have them come to your accounting firm. Of course, he showed you what his office looked like, which I thought was kind of cute, He's got a little thing in his house, which most of the guys, that's what they have. But we've had guys bring them to their little house. No, I'm going to tell you a story. You're either going to cry or throw up. His wife had tea and biscuits and shit ready for the guy when they come, And the potential sellers didn't know if she was the wife or the maid. That deal didn't close, by the way. That's the last thing you need. But we thought when we saw you're reading stuff in there that's not there. There must be invisible ink or some shit, but we don't tell you to bring your, No, but the reason I'm the most comfortable in my own house, so we brought him there. That was their rationale. Yeah. I'd like to say he was a Hispanic, Latino, but maybe in 5 years from now, I'll change the story so he's a pendejo Latino, but he wasn't. He was a white Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, but I always better, as Sally says, as the years go on, the stories change a little, depending. Okay, what else about Andreas? Yes, sir.
During the cold calls and the whole process, was Andreas speaking German?
Oh, yeah, this is a German deal. There's 2 people that are English. There's an Englishman who lives in Yorkshire. There's me. And then all the rest are German. And I mean, he's got some great guys. And by the way, nobody calls, it's Herr Doctor this, Herr Professor this. Nobody's on a first name basis. I mean, maybe Andreas will call me Dan maybe in 15, 20 years. Probably not. And they're very formal. And the more letters you have after your name, the more degrees, the more this. Herr Professor Doctor. Yeah. Okay, Herr Professor. I had a 4-star general, PhD, German, who was, and is it Herr General Doctor or Herr, which?
Herr Professor, Doctor.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And I mean, and we had a board meeting here. A guy could really suck up cognac too, that guy. Anyway, and they're very, very formal. And they don't make too many mistakes. And 3 of the last 4 big hitters that I produce are all Germanic. I mean, when they fucking get it, they're slow though. Not slow because they don't understand intellectually. They're slow because they're very fucking careful. And I call it the Hitler syndrome. They should have been more careful with the little fucking guy, but they weren't. He slipped through the crack somehow, and he's not even a German, and he's probably Jewish on top of all that, but he slipped through the crack, and that's never going to happen again. They also have guilt, and that's why they support the EU so much. And if it wasn't for Germany, the EU would collapse. And, what they did all those years ago. And I'm told in school, they still pound you about, the mistakes we made, and they still pound you.
Every year.
Yeah? Every year. Yeah. They still pound that. So it's not likely we're going to get Adolf Hitler II, out of there, maybe out of another country. But Andres says it pretty cogently. I mean, this is as simple as you can say it. This happens to me. I'm involved in it, but it's as simple. He just went boom, 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 just like I tell you. I mean, and any questions about Andreas? Yes, sir.
He said he was working really hard before.
Yeah, well, he was a successful financial analyst. Well, he had his career in finance. Yes.
I just want to know what he was working on just before the board meeting.
Before the board meeting?
Yeah.
Well, no. Well, he worked on his presentation. His presentation was like fucking, it was long. It was world class. It was a lot of, he worked on the preparation for the board meeting. He worked on the preparation for all the documents that were being signed. When they send me the documents, I say, I want a summary with the document. I'm not going to read all that 900 pages. The summary, and for example, one of the things that he was limited to spending €1 million. I said, you can't exist with that. So we increased it to 5 million. Of course, the board didn't want to do that, but they did do it. But he's continuing to make cold calls. He's continuing to find additional acquisition candidates. But again, I'm going to say it. When you start off and your opening volley is 100% owner finance, you win. Even if they don't do 100% owner finance, you're never going to get back to zero owner finance. So you had a question.
I wanted to know if the documents for the board meeting were translated for you, or how was it?
Oh, that's a good question. The notary has to read them in German and English. Okay, I waved. Yeah. So I waved, and so he didn't read them in both languages. But because there's English speaking, and if there was if there was an Italian in there, yeah, we'd still be there. Yeah. No. And I don't normally carry my passport. I never carry my. So, and the notary wanted passports, and I don't have my passport. And by the way, and then because he was nervous, we went to the wrong address in the rain, pissing down rain, walking through the streets of Munich to the wrong fucking building. And then finally he says, he's looking at me, he says, and he's looking at Google Map or whatever, we're in the wrong place. Okay, so but he got it all done. The important thing is he got it all done, and he did a good job. He's doing a great job. Anything else about Andreas? Now, is there anything that you don't understand about the process that he explained? Remember, how does this apply to me? Everything he did, except for the notary, is what you're going to do, if you follow the steps correctly in the back.
Do we get the template or the?
I'm going to give you the template to the notary, just because I don't like you. If we weren't on YouTube, I'd say, and it's because you're black and I don't like you. But because we are on YouTube, I'm not going to say that because I don't want to be considered a racist. And his name is Ajak. You're hunting down like a dog. Okay, so templates for what?
For the new company.
No, the new codes are going to have all different. It depends what the asset base are. The same templates that work for the mama company work for the baby companies. It's the same.
That all the paperwork and all this shit, who's handling all that? Lawyers, accountants?
Correct. Certainly not you. We already figured.
I don't want.
No. But whether you want to or not, we already figured out it ain't going to be you.
Right.
Yeah, but if you don't, All the lawyers worth of shit, all they can't know what to do. But if you don't say, it's your responsibility to get all this, and then hold them accountable. You got to give them a timeline. Otherwise, they know they're not getting paid then, but they know they're going to get paid someday. I mean, they may spend, a jillion more hours than are necessary. I'm not saying that they would do that, but it's very easy when you're not operating under a timeline to lose focus. And the accountants and lawyers are no different. But that quality of earnings thing you got, I mean, they have to be systematic sons of guns to go through that. Yeah.
When you go into the boardroom meeting and you're bringing 5 deals, does that would eliminate the pressure from not getting paid because the seller's financing?
No, but they were all seller finance.
Because won't you start getting pressure from them?
No, they don't. They're more professional than you. Now, every big firm has a business development fund. Let's say Ernst & Young spends $500 million on business development. That means they can lose $500 million in billable hours to create business development over the next 5 or 20 years. You're a part of their business development. So they want to, marshal their asset, marshal their time to where they think they're going to get the most bang for your buck. Their most bang for their buck. And where is it with? When a chairman you don't explain about, like, what's her name? Ex-president of the country, ex-minister of health. I hope you're not watching this, but she's had to really fuck it up to not make this deal work. The ex-president of the motherfucking country and the ex-minister of health. Jesus Christ. Don't fuck it up, sweetheart. And wear those dresses with a fucking thing up your ass, like you do. Hypothetically, of course. We've had some girls say, well, what do we wear to graduation night? And no, I made the mistake. Whatever you want. Wrong. We had some girls recently with big fucking lungs. I mean, the kind that shoot out like this, And there's no, all skin, no fucking shit on them, And Sally says, what did you tell these girls they could wear? I said, I told them they could wear anything. Maybe you should bring that description in a little. But some of the girls, because we wear kilts. Okay, and of course none of the guys are complaining about any of this, but it's cute. There was another question. Yes, sir.
So you clearly mentioned that when you were a beginner,
when I was a beginner.
No, when we as beginners start a deal with a famous law firm or accounting firm, we're not going to be exactly on the top of their priorities.
No, you won't.
So one of the ways to incentivize them is to provide them with a share in the deal.
No, you're not giving your lawyers and accountants share. First of all, they can't take them. Their partnership agreement almost always says you can't take them because you're conflicted.
So how can you do
well, you do a little Romanian deal. No, you don't. You're enticing them to believe in you because we're serious. Remember what the Churchill said? The Pakistani terrorist kid said, we're serial. We run a serial acquisition model. And by serial means dollar signs, pound signs, and euro signs because there's going to be a lot of deals. I could almost always get a deal done no matter what the time of the year was because I was number one, I didn't beat guys up on fees. And number two, we always paid. And, 9 times out of 10, the deal's always closed. Because what they're worried about is putting in a lot of time and then not getting paid. Ever. And so, but when you have these guys that have done $20 billion in deals, or 20 billion, whatever, and they've done 400 transactions cumulatively, by definition, there's a lot of fees paid. And so when they see that, and somebody on your board is going to be an ex-KPMG, or somebody on your board is going to be an ex-Slaughter and May, like the law firm that we've just been talking about, and they know, now the managing partner from PricewaterhouseCoopers may call the guy from Slaughter and May. He may not even know. Hi, this is blah, blah, blah. Is this deal for real? But you're not getting them Christmas gifts and none of that shit. They're buying you Christmas gifts. For the first time in your life, you got to be a non-pleaser. It's just like I said, if you leave here liking me, I fucked up something. You don't want them to like you. You want them to respect you And know when you say ABC, it's ABC. Because almost everybody they deal with is full of shit. And then once you've done a few deals, you get in the door based on the reputation of your board. But after you do a few deals, then it's you. And then, I mean, it's like a money machine. This model shits money. I can't put it any more graphically. If there's something more graphic than that, huh? Gold. No. Well, you're turning the shit into gold. But I mean, it shits money. I mean, I swear to you, it shits money. Now, okay, thank you.